Good afternoon, my people. What is going on, Wealth Our Way Nation? It is your main man, Charles Tank Harris, the founder and chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform Wealth Our Way, where our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. I want to welcome each and every one of you to episode 122, which is the wrap up episode for our week centering around women securing their financial future. But before we get into anything worth getting into, let me practice the attitude of gratitude and say thank you to each and every one of you who are here with me live as I stream across the Wealth Our Way Facebook and YouTube platforms. I also want to give that Wealth Our Way Nation salute to the many members of Wealth Our Way Nation who watch this program pre-recorded overnight, over the weekend, during their lunch break, wherever they can squeeze 15 minutes of financial literacy in, and then a heartfelt how are you to the good folks on the Life 101 platform who listen to the audio recording of this very here program. We had a great week. I know we threw the schedule off a little bit, and I love that all you guys are just rolling with the ebbs and the flows of things as we navigate live programming. But I want to thank Dr. Pastor Sabrina Ellis for the wisdom and the vulnerability and the transparency that she shared with us. I hope you guys are all out there securing her book, Wife Life. We touched on so many topics during her financial power hour on Tuesday night as to the things that are necessary for the women of our community. Whoever, like I said before, this is not just a program that night for women, but for those of us who love women, who are related to, who care about women and want to make sure that their financial future is secure in the absence of assistance from their husbands or partners who may pass or divorce prematurely. With that in mind, what we do on the wrap-up show is we pull a couple of points out from the power hour and make sure that you, the audience, have some takeaways that you can use to actually take action on the subject matter that was covered on the power hour. So with that in mind, I have 3 key points that I want to get into today to help everyone out here who's listening understand how women can secure their financial future moving forward. Because in all communities, regardless of color, regardless of continental boundaries, women are the heads of the households from a standpoint of filling in the nooks and crannies and keeping us together. As they say in chess, the queen protects the back of the king. We live in an equality world where it's as important to make sure the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. So we are going to continue to promote on Wealth Our Way during the financial power hour and on the 15 minutes of finance, the ability to make sure that our legacy wealth movement is continued. And that starts with making sure that women are secure in that protective power order inside the home. So with that being said, we're going to touch on 3 points that I believe, after talking to Dr. Ellis, will be paramount to anyone securing their financial future. The first one is, we talk about this on the program. We've talked about it all through 2021. You have to have communication. And Dr. Ellis was very clear on that. She said that she was so prepared at the end of 2020 when her husband had passed because she had communication. They had accounts that had joint rights of survivorship on it. So the number one thing that I'm going to say is you need to establish inside your household a finance day. If you are dating, you need to talk we have this very overreaching premise of the 5 love languages, and that is very important. But we need to know that we're on the same page financially, and we need to look at our relationship for the business that it is. So whether you are married or seriously dating and planning to marry, living in a long-term partnership, girlfriend, boyfriend, doesn't matter. If you are sharing a life together, you need to plan a finance day. And having this finance day, it can be once a month on a Saturday morning. It could be a Wednesday night, date night, while you're watching the Finance Power Hour with Charles Tank Harris and Wealth Our Way. But you need to have a finance hour, a finance day, where you go over everything of consequence in your financial life. whether it's just the budget, whether it's risk management. And by risk management, I mean having insurance, not just life insurance, but homeowners insurance. We experienced in North Jersey severe weather from Hurricane Ida. It devastated my household. We were under 2.5 feet of water. My furnace was gone. My washer and dryer was gone. My hot water heater was gone. We looked at the flood insurance. We had a $10,000 deductible. So fortunately, we were able to get some aid from FEMA, and some other things jumped in. But it really brought to my attention that even as the host of a financial literacy show, there's so many things that can get by you in your day-to-day things of your household, making sure your homeowner's insurance, your auto insurance, all of the different discounts and bundling packages that are available. It isn't fun. I'm going to be the first one to tell you, I run a financial literacy platform. I'm never going to lie to you and tell you this is the most enjoyable thing to do, but it is necessary. So the step number one is to sit down, schedule a finance day where you talk to your significant other about all things financial. Thing number two, this is very important. If you are looking to secure your financial future, ladies, it behooves you to speak to someone who is in or has been in a similar situation to you. I'm a big believer in mentorship. I'm a big believer in accountability partners. It was very big in the 80s going into the 90s to start book clubs. Start a finance club. Get together with other women. The term is normally equally yoked. Get together with other women who are in your situation. If you have daughters, sisters, include them in the conversation, especially in the African American community. But I would think this happens all over the country. There's a stigma around money that we don't want to talk about it in an honest and true fashion. We want to brag. We want to get on Facebook and post our new car or our fancy vacation, but we don't want to talk honestly about our financial concerns, our financial struggles. I just had a budgeting meeting with a client before I got on now, and we were talking about the amount of money spent on Instacart for this particular client. It was huge. And they were saying, well, I need groceries, but I don't need to always order them. And we were looking at something as simple as the service charge for the number of Instacarts. And what she realized is when she went to the supermarket for herself, she might go to the supermarket once every 3 weeks. She was Instacarting twice a week and getting less items each time as things popped up in her mind as to what she needed, but spending that service charge every time. So we need to have an accountability group or a mentor group. I'm going to partner with one of the gentlemen who was on my program a couple of Wednesdays ago about an investment club and bring that knowledge to everybody within the sound of my voice. We need to make talking about finances more commonplace. We need to stop worrying about keeping up with the Joneses and protecting our households because we share information that is helpful. That is not for those of you who are introverts like myself, and for those of you who think everybody's out to get them and are a little paranoid. This is not to say you have to open up. I come on here every day and use examples of conversations I have with clients, but none of you guys get my clients' names. You don't get the actual real dollar amounts. I can talk in generalities about things that are true and really happening without sharing information that violates anybody's confidence. You can do the same in your own personal life. You can talk about hypothetical situations. Hey, my girlfriend bought a car with her cousin, and we don't know if it should have been on her credit report or things of that nature. Conversations that you're having that you get outside of your own knowledge base and can share with other people the knowledge that they have. So I encourage you to start mentorships or accountability groups with women who are in similar situations economically, marriage-wise, business-wise, educational level to you so that you can get the benefit of other people. The last thing I would say, and this kind of goes back to the financial meeting, you want to have a checklist. You want to have, and Tamiko put in the chat, we need a workbook, 100%. That's something that I'll start working on, a workbook for the audience, a workbook for my clientele. You want to have a checklist of what's important. I loved when Dr. Ellis was talking about the accounts that had rights of survivorship. Rights of survivorship, just for the audience, is when you have an account that has 2 or more people's names on it, and they have joint ownership of this account. So if one person's not available, another person can do everything as if it's their own account because it is their own account. The account continues in perpetuity with the second person having the exact equal rights as the first person in continuation. When that happens, if a person passes away, that account does not go to probate. And just to give you another definition, we've talked about probate before, but probate is the legal process of administering someone who has passed away's assets. We call it an estate. It is the legal process of saying who gets what, which is why a will is so important, because a will is you speaking from the grave as to where you want your assets to go. But without things going through probate, if you name a direct beneficiary, like on a 401k account or a life insurance policy, or if you have an account that has joints with rights of survivorship, you don't have to let those things go. They don't go through probate. That's big not to not go into probate. Yes, 100%. Probate is not only a time-consuming process, it's a public process. Now, once again, most of us aren't going to be important enough to have to worry about somebody knowing our business of who got what. And when I say important, that's a relative term. Don't be offended. But people aren't silly. We're not Puff Daddy. People aren't sitting around looking for the newspaper to see, who got what ex-wife got what. However, being open to the public in this day and age of all of these technologies that are going around and all of these scammers, you don't want people to know that you're in probate and that they can start to look to try to compromise accounts that are transferring from one person to another person, making phone calls. Death is already a sensitive enough time in our lives than to have someone harassing us or putting us under undue pressure because they know we're in a delicate situation. The more you can avoid the probate process, the better that will be during a time where you're already under duress. So to recap, the 3 things that I believe are crucial to women securing their financial future are to establish a finance day. And don't get me, I've been talking about couples. If you are a single woman, this is still important. Sit down with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and your journal and write out the things that are important to you financially, whether they are goals that you have financially or whether they are things you need to address, improving your credit, getting higher interest rates on your investments and your savings. The second thing, community. Get a group. Get a peer group, an accountability group, a mentor. Also, and I learned this from my days back in Temple when I injured myself playing ball, I became a tutor. My grades were never better than when I was tutoring, because if you can teach something to somebody else, you are mastering it as you teach it. So also don't forget to reach back. Get someone who's younger than you and help them get on the right path with their finances, preferably someone in your family. Lastly, it would be to have a checklist to make sure you're not missing anything and that nothing falls through the cracks of what is important. Investments, debt management, insurance, making sure you have the things. I loved when Dr. Ellis talked about being able to send her husband off in a manner befitting his life, not having to skimp, not having to be stressed because she had the proper things in place, wasn't on some GoFundMe type of time. So those are the 3 things. Next week, we are going to get into all of this stuff surrounding student loan forgiveness, Navient. We're going to have Dr. Genevieve Dobson back on. You'll start to see the thumbnails and the flyers for that. I want you guys to have the most amazing weekend. We had a short week this week celebrating the legacy of the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want you guys to have a great weekend, and I want you to, as always, remember that wealth is not only for the wealthy. You guys take care, and I'll see you on Tuesday.